Monogamy is ridiculous.
The whole concept of private property, which is inherently just theft.
And now it's time for Brad versus TikTok, my daily segment where I take on the craziest ideas from the Clock app.
Pronoun of the day is slugs.
Today, woke podcasts are officially beyond parody. We're going to watch a clip from something called the Queer Collective podcast and try to follow along with this one and not lose too many brain cells. If you can actually follow the thoughts being articulated in this clip that was posted to TikTok, kudos to you, because it's difficult to even parse this woke, insane gobbledygook, but we're going to try.
Monogamy is ridiculous. Agricultural practices introduced the concept of private property, which led to societal enforcement of relationships composed of one man with one or more wives.
The whole concept of private property, which is inherently just theft, create this hoarder mentality, I think.
I love how 1 minute they're talking about like monogamy and polyamory and like woke shit, and the next it's just radical Marxism.
And then that somehow also translating to relationships and interpersonal human connections.
Before agricultural practices, early humans had little need to worry about individual resources because private property was limited to what a person could carry. Post-agriculture, individual humans were suddenly rewarded if they claimed ownership over a swath of land. A man could suddenly pass down real estate if he could identify his heirs and could now benefit from being monogamous or polygamous.
That just means no more group sex.
Women who used to be viewed as equal to men were now seen as resources to be controlled and are punished if they seek out polydynamics that they enjoyed before.
Because then whose kid is who?
I can't be the only one, but sometimes I feel like woke people live in an alternate reality. I mean, the comments on this video just further confirm that feeling. Sounds like greed may be the very root of patriarchy and capitalism. Everyone was chilling and sharing, and then some man said, "Mine!" Yeah, that's exactly how history played out. I wish we could return to indigenous ways of living, or at least take advice from it. Tell me you know nothing about indigenous ways of living without telling me you know nothing about indigenous ways of living. Another person says, I came to the realization that agriculture was the beginning of the end. And how many bong hits did you take before you came to that realization? I mean, there's just so much to unpack here, but first let's start with the Marxist shit, I guess. The idea that private property is theft is something so stupid, only a highly educated academic person could believe it. It's a classic Marxist trope, but it's just not true. Me owning and operating a business does not mean I'm stealing from anyone. I can employ people. I can provide people with goods and services they want. I can help my community and create jobs. And there's no stealing involved at any point. I don't have to take anything away from people. In fact, the definition of what I'm doing is mutually beneficial exchanges, because nobody's forced at gunpoint to come to my store and buy my stuff. Nobody's forced to work for me. It's all voluntary. It's all win-win agreements and arrangements. But somehow us owning businesses and being entrepreneurial is stealing. The math is not mathing, babe. But math is not the strong suit of Marxists, so I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, I can't believe we're talking about the agricultural revolution like it's a bad thing. Like, you know, that's a huge part of the reason that human societies became more prosperous and people stopped starving so much and populations were able to grow, and it led later to the Industrial Revolution that created all this amazing reductions in maternal mortality and increased lifespan and longevity. And you're saying that's bad because in your made up version of history, it caused monogamy. Huh? And this really is just fake history. I mean, this is history 10 hits of the crack pipe too deep. The idea that women were fully equal and all societies were feminist and dominated by gender equity, and then agriculture came along and the patriarchy was created, isn't true. Open a book. I mean, gender roles and the various levels of gender equality have varied in different civilizations, but the idea that women were equal pre-agriculture era in most or even any significant number of societies is not true. In fact, it would be much better to have been born a woman in one of these post-agricultural revolution societies than in most of those societies that came before. And I mean, I don't even want to get into this whole thing about polygamy versus monogamy, but monogamy is not ridiculous. If you want to go do something else, knock yourself out. I really don't care. But there's a reason monogamy exists. It's not ludicrous. It's natural for a lot of people. I mean, and there's a lot of science behind things like pair bonding. But if you want to have your weird queer podcast where you talk about polygamy or whatever, like maybe just don't do it with fake crackhead history and weird anti-reality Marxism. We can have that conversation, but I feel like that's just not too much to ask. But who knows? Maybe I'm the crazy one. Y'all let me know in the comments section.